Hey everyone, I'm Ian McCarthy of Lifting for Life, and tonight I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about what I perceive to be the conflation of adherence and enjoyment and why this is problematic. And to give you a little bit of context as to why I'm talking about this, why I would think to talk about this, over the past probably 6 to 8 months, I have seen what I perceive to be a tendency for folks who probably believe themselves to be evidence-based, justifying, I think, physiologically suboptimal protocols on the basis of them being more enjoyable, and saying that folks ultimately are going to better adhere to those protocols. Now, I would first like to say that I do think adherence is extraordinarily important. And to illustrate this point, let's imagine a protocol which is physiologically immaculate. In other words, totally in line with the literature, totally in line with overwhelming anecdotal evidence indicating that if it is implemented, it will work extremely well. Now, if you give that to a person and they say that they're not going to do it, or typically what will happen is you give it to someone, they say they'll do it, and they don't do it. The fact that in theory, if it were done, it would be amazing, simply doesn't matter. In practice, it doesn't matter. It's not going to generate a good result if the person doesn't do it. I completely grant that. I say that incredibly frequently in in-person discussions I have with folks and discussions online. That, I think, is totally uncontroversial. So that's not what I'm hoping to discuss or dispute in this video. However, what I have seen is folks saying, again, well, and this is using an example, I do a bro split, or I have recommended to this person a bro split because I enjoy it more, or they enjoy it more, and thus adherence is better, and that better adherence is going to yield a better result, despite the fact that perhaps perfect adherence to an upper-lower split or a full-body approach would probably yield a better result given various physiological arguments that we can give for higher frequency training being better. Hopefully some of you have noticed the error there, and the error is what I perceive to be the assumption that adherence and enjoyment are the same, and they simply aren't. And they aren't because of something you might know of called discipline. And in this context, let's just define discipline as the ability to compel yourself to do that which you don't want to do. And I think in the case of, serious fitness folks, and this doesn't necessarily refer only to people competing in the Olympia or competing as a high level or at a high level as natural bodybuilders, etc. I think this applies to a lot of folks who are pretty serious. They lift, let's say, 4 or 5 days a week. They want to be pretty strong, pretty big, pretty lean, etc. I mean, truthfully, folks like me who are really never going to be remarkable at any of these things, but they do train most of the time, they pay attention to their diet, etc. What discipline does is it creates a genuine, I'm repeating myself, but I want to ensure that this point is hammered home. Discipline, if someone actually has it to a significant degree, creates a distinction between enjoyment and adherence, and it allows someone to adhere to a protocol which they perhaps enjoy less than another protocol. And thus, that causes this line of reasoning of, you should do this approach, this perhaps physiologically inferior approach, over a physiologically superior approach because you enjoy it more, I think dubious at best. And I think I'll end this video simply with an illustration because I don't think I need to explain this really more than I already have, but an example I think will be valuable. Imagine you have someone who loves training each body part once per week, traditional bro split, maybe even the whatever it is, the chest, legs, back, shoulders, arms, like the classic 5-day split. They love that. So if they use that approach, it's a 10 out of 10 for enjoyment. And it's a 10 out of 10 in terms of adherence because they enjoy it so much. Now, if you present them with 3 times per week full body, or let's take it all the way to the other end of the spectrum, like 6-day per week full body approach. I think it would be really, really difficult to argue that, assuming that the full body approach is properly designed and not completely moronic, I think it would be very, very difficult to argue that that isn't a physiologically superior approach. In other words, assuming perfect adherence, almost everyone would agree that that's going to be superior. But let's say that their enjoyment of that is a 5 out of 10. It's like totally neutral, in other words. Like they don't hate it, they don't enjoy it, it's just kind of like they're able to do it. But they have good discipline, maybe not even excellent, but good enough. What that means is their adherence to that approach is ultimately like an 8. So, 80% of the protocol they do, maybe a little bit they change, some of it they don't do, they add an exercise here or there, that kind of thing. What that means to me is, in a practical sense, the fact that their enjoyment of that is so much lower than their enjoyment of the bro split doesn't matter, because as a result of their discipline, which again isn't world-class, superhuman, etc., but it's good enough to get their adherence to a high enough level that using the approach that they enjoy less ends up being probably significantly better than them using the approach that they absolutely love. So I think it's very important that folks in the fitness industry, whether coaches, other fitness professionals, or just those in the gym perhaps giving some advice to other people, be aware of this distinction. Let's not get carried away and think enjoyment overrides everything. We also need to account for discipline and people's ability to adhere to something which maybe they enjoy less. Admittedly, there is a caveat to this that I want to recognize and acknowledge. And as I said in my last video, things like this, well, I said most everything is subjective, and this is another good example of that. If someone fundamentally trains because they just like it, they just want to have some fun, then perhaps it does make good sense to just give them that which they most enjoy. And you could take that to an extreme. Maybe you have someone who they just want to lift because it's fun. They're purely doing it for enjoyment. They really don't care about the health benefits. They don't want to develop a proportionate physique. I think those are synonyms you'll have to check. And they exclusively desire to train chest and arms. I mean, there are people like this, obviously. In that case, perhaps it's reasonable to recommend that they just train chest and arms, because ultimately that's all they care about, and it isn't, let's say, my job as a coach to try to dictate that person's values to them. Now, I would say, listen, maybe this isn't the way you want to do things, maybe you're going to end up with muscular imbalances, etc. I would express these concerns to them. But ultimately, if they said, thank you for letting me know, but I really still don't care, I just want to train chest and arms, I would probably feel that the best I could do for them is design them a program in which they only train chest or arms, or chest and arms, or if I'm really uncomfortable, I say, okay, I'm not the person to be working with you. But again, I wanted to acknowledge that caveat, but I think that the general objection is very forceful, because most people do care about, most people who are going to be watching videos like this, I think, do care about making the best possible gains, etc., in which case we need to not assign too much weight to enjoyment. Again, we can't say enjoyment overrides everything. Adherence overrides a lot, but it's not necessarily the same as enjoyment. So let's be cognizant of that distinction moving forward. And hopefully, after I make this video and upload it, I will never see anyone make this mistake again, because obviously I have that much influence on the internet. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this valuable. If you did, please leave me a like. If you didn't, please leave a dislike and tell me that you didn't find it valuable, and let me know what you'd prefer me to talk about. On my last video, the top comment was about Jason Blaha, so maybe I need to just be making videos about Jason. Also, I'm going to have in the description box below links out to all of my social media stuff. Please follow me everywhere, particularly on various internet porn sites. I post tons of content there. I repost my videos there, get more views. But in particular, I've been putting up a ton of informative content on Snapchat. I only even created an account about a week ago. I've been really enjoying engagement with folks. So that's probably where I'm most active there. So if you don't have an account, get one. It's pretty straightforward. Snap me, send me questions and so on, and I'll get back to you. So thank you so much. I need to actually speak English in these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon, hopefully within a week. Peace out.